If you want to improve on guitar and achieve your guitar playing goals, you need to practice. But as you know, there are many things that get in the way of practice. Whether it's school, work, watching the newest episode of The Voice with your girlfriend, or scrolling through the Sweetwater website looking for the newest purchase. Today we'll be looking at some different ways to overcome the distractions and boredom so that you can make the progress that you want. Today we're going to be specifically talking about how to best practice technique without getting bored. When I say the word technique, I'm referring to things like picking, legato, tapping, hybrid picking, maybe bends and vibrato, and different patterns that might go along with those techniques. Now, Bruce Lee said, "I don't fear the man that practiced 1,000 kicks for one day. I fear the man that practiced one kick a day for 1,000 days." And in my opinion, this is a fundamental perspective to have when it comes to practicing guitar. It's not about practicing 10 hours one day and then not playing for like 3-4 days. It's about practicing consistently every day for an extended period of time. I recommend choosing 3 different technical things to focus on for a period of time. Whether it's 3 different techniques like picking, legato, and tapping, or maybe 3 variations of picking, so alternate picking, economy picking, and maybe some different patterns. Just 3 different kind of examples to go back and forth between. What you choose doesn't really matter, just choose 3 different things to focus on. I believe, like most things, guitar comes and goes in different seasons. You might be in a season of learning, or practicing, or composing. And when you're in those seasons, it doesn't mean you don't spend time on the other things, it's just that is your main priority. We're gonna be talking about you being in the season of practicing. And when you're in the season of practice, I'd be very, very careful with continually learning more and more information. After all, guitar playing is a lifelong quest, not a get-rich-quick scheme. So be patient. Okay, you may be wondering, how do I practice consistently every day for an entire season of practice? Maybe like 1 to 3 months, focused on just 3 different elements, and do that without getting bored. When it comes to practice, we need to realize, especially with technique, that the law of diminishing returns is in effect. So more time practicing is not necessarily actually making you that much better. So start off, analyze your life right now, your day-to-day, what it might be like, and come up with what is the average, most consistent amount of time that you can play every day. Of course, some days you might be able to play longer. Some days it might look a little less. I would base it off the less maybe and see, if I can play 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, evaluate that amount of time and make that your goal to every day play that amount of time. Now, when it comes to practicing, I don't want you practicing that a whole amount of time. I want you to follow maybe a 50 to 75% ratio to the entire time you might be playing. So if you're playing for 30 minutes a day, I want you to be practicing 15 to 20 minutes of that. If you're playing an hour a day, maybe practice 30 to 45 minutes a day. And, let's just say 2 hours, maybe practice an hour to hour and a half. And I would say the law of diminishing returns really comes in effect probably at that ratio. Really practicing technique for an hour or more, you're really running into the law of diminishing returns, and it's actually not as effective. It might be better to do other things. So say you're sitting down, you're practicing one of those 3 elements of technique that you're focusing on in this season, and you're starting to get bored and a little distracted. The best thing to do is switch to another technique or pattern or whatever it may be. So if you're doing one of the 3, go to the next one. When you feel yourself getting bored or distracted with that, switch again, go to another thing. And do this in a cycle. So, if you're practicing for 30 minutes, it's not 30 minutes. It's not like 10 minutes of this, 10 minutes of that, 10 minutes of that other thing. That might work for you, but some people might get distracted and bored. So it might be like 3 to 5 minutes of one thing. You feel yourself getting bored, switch over. It might be 3 to 5 minutes of the next thing. You feel yourself kind of getting bored and distracted, and you keep moving this. So it's not this exact equation. We're still practicing for that 50 to 75% ratio, but it's not perfectly planned out because we're trying to not be bored. We're trying to have fun with this and get the most out of practice. The final way to practice without getting bored so that you can practice consistently over an entire season of practice, maybe like 1 to 3 months, consistently doing the same thing basically every day so that you master it and you can get the most out of these different things. This might seem a little maybe controversial and hypocritical even, but I found it to be massively effective, especially when it comes to practicing technique. You can use this with practicing other material, but technique in specific, it works fantastically. And that is to practice while maybe watching YouTube videos, watching TV, a TV show, movie, maybe listen to a podcast or an audiobook. I found doing any of those things simultaneously as practicing will actually help you stay not bored. Especially with technique, because with technique, we're doing the same exact thing every day. Muscle memory is going to really become effect. And we don't have to actually think so much about what we're doing. It's about the repetitions. We got to get the repetitions in and the consistency to master it. But we don't need to think about every little thing, especially for 3 months straight. In my findings, I would say it's actually more productive, especially with technique stuff. I find having some of your attention elsewhere kind of reduces tension of your playing and is actually massively effective. And actually, in my opinion, makes you better, because if we're super focused all that time, tension builds up. We get overly we want this like perfectionist kind of thing. When this tension creeps in, and it actually ends up holding us back. Having our attention slightly elsewhere at times, whether it's a video or a movie or a podcast, it actually, I find, helps keep us relaxed, but also obviously in, day out, makes it more fun and enjoyable, where we don't get bored doing the same thing practicing.
Of truth, the sounds getting loud in the mind, under the essence of truth.
I hope you've enjoyed this video, and implementing these things helps your playing out drastically. I'll see you guys back next time.